Hello, Jim. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Francis. Thank you for having me.
Oh my God, no, thank you so much for joining us. It's been absolutely such an honor to have you here. Such a big fan of all your work, your videos, your programs, your books. So thank you for being part of Imagine Talks 2021. You're literally a breath of fresh air for us as we move into literally the new decade. Um, and I really believe that we can only go up from where we are right now. So I have so many questions for you. And a lot of these are my own personal questions, but also some that we collected from the community. I'm going to start with my own personal question because you have a kindred spirit with me in the terms that I love reading comic books, especially before I go to sleep. That's basically how I really just relax myself. And comic books have been with me since I can't even remember when I didn't have comic books in my life. So my question to you is, who is your favorite superhero of all time, and why is that superhero so special to you?
What a great question. Yeah, comic books, something you and I share in common. One of the reasons why is because I grew up with learning challenges and I had trouble. It took me 3 years longer to learn how to read after my brain injury at 5 years old. And I taught myself how to read by reading comic books late at night, and something about the stories that one person can make a difference, that there's hope and there's real help, brought it to life, the words. My answer would be the same as it's funny because one of my mentors was a gentleman by the name of Stan Lee. Stan Lee, the creator of most superheroes. And I got to introduce him to another modern day superhero because they wanted to meet over dinner. It was Richard Branson. And I posted this picture on Instagram, but in the car, I asked him that same question. I was like, Stan, you created Avengers, X-Men, all of them. Who's your favorite? And he says, Jim, it's Iron Man. And I'm like, wow, it's one of my favorites. That's on even on my phone, it's on my laptop cover, everything. And he said, Jim, who's your favorite superhero? And he had a big Spider-Man tie. And I said, Spider-Man. And without a pause, he says, with great power comes great responsibility, right? Is an iconic voice. And I still reverse things a little bit because of my traumatic brain injuries and learning difficulties. And I heard something different. And I think, our listeners could appreciate it. I heard something different. I said, you're right. With great power comes great responsibility. And the opposite is also true. With great responsibility comes great power. When we take responsibility for something, we have great power to make things better. And he gave me this, people are watching on video. I'm showing the on top of my office here, I have a portrait made
That's
out of
right.
yeah, made out of candy of Stan Lee with the Spider-Man background, the webs, and he's a big kid, and he loved his candy, and it's made out of like all different kinds of candy. But it was original, but I put it in my office just as a constant reminder that age is a state of mind, that we should always play. He had two passions in his life. He loved going to work still, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, because he loved telling stories. That was his passion, and his other passion was his wife. And I really respected and admired that. And so I know you talk a lot about mentorship, then, and so that's for me. But Spider-Man, and the reason why is growing up, he was one of the first superheroes I read about, and it was maybe I was in New York and he was in New York, but he was also bullied and he was misunderstood. As he had challenges. He had lost his parents, he was orphaned, but he still did the hard thing. He had this responsibility to do good, and I related with those aspects, so.
Wow, I couldn't agree with you more. Iron Man and Spider-Man definitely very very high up there. I think for me, over the years, it shifted, but I think for me it always comes back down to Professor X.
Yeah.
Because he's the quintessential mentor, right? And he plays that role, and that he's first and foremost a mentor, and second a hero.
Yeah, I love that. Some people who read Limitless know my story of trying to find the X-Men School, because I grew up. My parents, they immigrated to the United States, and uh, we ended up being right outside the city of New York City, and when I found out reading the comic books that the X-Men School, which was interesting because they're mutants, right? They didn't fit in, and I felt like I didn't fit in with my, I was one of two Asians in our school system,
Hmm.
and the other one, Roger Lee, 1 year older. He was valedictorian. He was head of the debate team. He was head of the math team. He missed one answer on his SATs, so he was upset. He took it again to get a perfect score. So he kind of set a perception for, and then I come afterwards and I was on the opposite side of the bell curve. But so I was, I was bullied and I had these challenges, and like a lot of people could relate to, but I found myself pouring myself in my imagination,
Mm.
in comic books. I mean, I found out the X-Men, they were like the same. They weren't the strongest, but they didn't fit in. They were mutants. They were marginalized,
Yeah.
not understood. And I could relate to that. And I found out the XMen School was it was in Westchester, New York, in my neighborhood. And so on the weekends, I would get on my bicycle when I was like 9 years old, and I would try to find this school because I wanted to run away and not, just to find my superpowers. I want to find my super friends, and so I could appreciate, the mentorship of Professor Xavier, Professor X, and Charles Xavier, and he's a real icon. I mean, it's hard to name like what's your favorite, but X-Men are near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, absolutely. Those I don't know how Marvel does it, but Marvel really, I love DC as well too, but Marvel really knows how to write in the human factor so well into their universe. That
Yeah,
right?
Superman. Yeah, but like a Superman for me is just, it's easy to be courageous when you're bulletproof and
Yeah,
you're more everything. But somebody who's not, and that's why in DC I like Batman. Batman, he again, it's interesting. A lot of the ones that we admire had the most adversity.
hmm,
Like most uh, most of them are orphans. Like the big ones:
hmm,
Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, Spider-Man, Iron Man.
yeah,
they had very challenging, and through challenge came change. Through struggles, they found strength, and they
exactly,
weren't perfect.
exactly, and exactly that's the reason why your story is so inspiring. Is through your challenge, not only did you not let it define you, you excelled beyond it, and now you are actually touching others, not just because of it, but despite it, and you turned it into a strength like they did. So, which defines you as a superhero, Joe.
I appreciate it. I mean, I think we all have that potential to take our struggles and turn into strengths or superpowers. My two biggest challenges growing up were learning,
Hmm.
and because I was labeled broken, and these challenges, public speaking was a challenge too. Because when you feel like you're not enough or there's something wrong with you, you don't really,
Yeah,
you're not gonna want the spotlight. And my superpower really was being invisible. I would hide behind the tall kid in class. I didn't want to be called on. I didn't want to be seen. I was shrinking down all the time, so I was getting small. But it's interesting. The universe has a sense of humor because my two biggest challenges became my two biggest strengths. The universe. All I do is public speak on this thing called learning. So
no,
I
it
think
makes
the message for everybody is that your adversity could be an advantage. That a lot of things I grew up, that was, I was a little bit of, maybe I even had some shame around, coming here, not having money, or not speaking the language, or just my learning difficulties, or if you're public speaking, or this stuff is this things I'm really most proud of today.
absolutely, and it shows. And I could go on this topic with you forever. It seems like, but we so many other questions I want to ask you in a time. Okay, so based on all the stuff that we're now learning about, your philosophy, and also some of the missions you have. Um, Obviously, this year is a year like no other in probably most of the people who've been alive at this point, right?
Mm.
Anyone who's experienced this is probably long dead from like the flu of 1918, and now we're experiencing a whole another, um, I guess, phenomenon again in this almost reset period of our time. Now you have such a good, strong, very disciplined morning routine. I know that I've watched some of your videos, and I've heard that you meditate, you have great reading, you exercise every day. Um, has 2020, it has changed for everybody, but for you, what are some significant changes in your morning routine that you've taken on and adapted because of 2020? And has that been a hindrance, or has it been enhancements of how you are now focused on reaching your life goals anyways?
Yeah, that's such a great question, and I'm curious. I would love to see people who are listening to post their answers to this question also as well, because I'd like to hear how everyone else is doing. Um, in Limitless, in my book, I have a quote from a French philosopher, and he says, "Life is the C between B and D. Life is
Mhm.
C between B and D. B stands for birth, D stands for death, and C, life, choice." And I really do believe that these difficult times, they could define us, these difficult times can diminish us, or these difficult times can develop us. Ultimately, we decide with the choices we make every single day. And so it's certainly been a trying time for so many of us, and as I think about it, I feel like that this was the year that a lot of people started 2020 because it's 2020, 2020 vision. They had a
Mhm.
vision for their life, and they thought it was going to be the year that they would get everything they wanted. And I think this ended up being the year we appreciate the things that we have. And I always go to gratitude and the power of gratitude on our brains and how it rewires our brains for peace and productivity and greater performance. Um, and here's the thing, for me, it's certainly changed a lot, from, it's the metaphor I'm using, and I would invite everyone to embrace it, or at least maybe reflect on it, is that of a butterfly. A butterfly is the ultimate symbol of transformation. And it feels like we're going through a life cycle. And while the caterpillar feels like it's the end of the world, it becomes that butterfly. But while the beauty is in the butterfly, the growth actually happens in the cocoon. It's that willingness for and the desire for that caterpillar to be more, that it develops the strength to soar to new heights and become that amazing, beautiful creature. And speaking about a butterfly, we feel like we're cocooning, and when we're cocooning, we're alone with our thoughts, physically distancing ourselves. We might be feeling alone. We're alone with our doubts and our fears. And so, it's a trying time. People don't know if they're working from home or they're living at work, and it's confusing. Days are blending together, and one of the reasons, from a memory standpoint, is we don't have those same outstanding, situations where we're going out for dinners, or going to plays, or going to concerts or comedy clubs, or just out and about. So things, people don't know what days there are. And so, it's very concerning, and the amount of what's going on with mental health, of feeling alone. It's an epidemic to our mental health. And so, that being said, for me, it was trying, personally, with some family and friends and such, people who are suffering and struggling, especially with their health physically and mentally, but also for me, work-wise, we launched a book, my very first book in 29 years, and I didn't know. They asked if my publisher said, "Should we delay it?" And because everything going on, I was like, "No, this book is more than a book on speed reading and remembering names and learning languages. This is a book about managing your mind in times of crisis. It's about how to regain your focus, your flow when you're working from home. How do you support your kids if they're in and out of school? How do you learn a new skill or subject rapidly if you've lost your job?"
Mhm.
And so, I believe, for me, you control the controllables, right? You always control what you can control. And for me, it's really, I had to double down on my structure. When you're forced to work from home and you're not traveling, you need consistency, and the brain loves human consistency in terms of your sleep, in terms of when you're eating. For me, I talk a lot about my morning routine, things I do in the morning to really get my mind right, so I'm not reacting to everything. So little things to give you control, like making your bed, seems so simple, but the brain loves a clean environment, and you train yourself to be excellent making that bed. And you might think it's minor, but then you take that excellence into other things in your life, because how you do anything is how you do everything. Challenging yourself to do little things in the morning, like instead of checking your phone, which I know we all do and we have a habit of doing because those platforms are designed. I mean, you're in the mecca of, where, social media and online and mobile, but it's a challenge because it rewires our brain to be distracted with every ring, ding, ping, like, share, comment. It's rewiring our brain just to be distracted. And you wonder why you can't study well without your mind going somewhere, have a conversation on Zoom without your attention have to going somewhere else. Or it's also rewiring our brain, sometimes our devices, being reactive, where we're just fighting fires and we're just responding to things, out of just like being a thermometer as opposed to being a thermostat and setting and leading. And so for me, I don't touch my phone the first 30 minutes. And for me, it just became honestly kind of sad. And I think it's important to know what's going on, but your mind has an algorithm like Instagram does, that if you just watch all the cat videos and like and share all the cat videos, it shows you more of it. That's the algorithm. Whatever you engage with, you get more of. But if you're always just looking at everything gloom and doom and threatening and scary, your brain starts looking for that, and you start training your brain. And the challenge is you don't have the bandwidth to focus on possibility, on opportunity, on things you could even be grateful for, right now also as well. So my to answer your question, it's a long-winded, but for me, yes, all the external things are going on, and I control what I can control, and that's what that's my mindset, that's my motivation, that's the things that I do every day, my methods that I employ to learn and to lead. So I would say that to set a structure for yourself, and that structure should also have some kind of gratitude in it. Whatever gratitude is for you, it might be prayer, it might be having a gratitude journal. But I think gratitude, again, it just being grateful is a wonderful place to start for your brain to thrive. Because how are you going to go out there and achieve success and accomplish things if you don't appreciate what you already have? And what you appreciate tends to grow. And so a lot of my thing is to get out, and gratitude is the antidote to fear. Chronic stress, it shrinks our brain. Chronic fear, it suppresses our immune system. There's a whole area of science called psychoneuroimmunology, where chronic fear can make you more susceptible to colds, the flus, the viruses. And I think the antidote to fear is gratitude. And so, a lot of my focus.
Wow, I love that. I love the simple thing you said is control what is controllable. I think that
Yeah.
for me, that's a core takeaway I've gotten from your answer, and that makes the most sense to me. So leading up from that, again, we're talking about 2020 because it's such, for all intents and purposes, the word unprecedented year. Have you learned anything about yourself in this year that you did not discover from 2019 and before? And also, have you learned anything about your community,
Mm.
and however you define that, that also was not visible, or where you didn't know about because of 2020? Like,
Yeah.
was 2020 revealed both about yourself and the people around you?
Yeah, I really do believe. I mean, a big lesson. If I was sum up the word, a couple words for 2020. I'm amazed how resilient people are.
Mm,
Resilience is something, that the amount of grit people have is tremendous. That like, and anyone who's struggling right now, I'm talking to you, is just acknowledge how far you've come. Like part of self-care, even brain care, is falling in love with that person in the mirror who's been through so much but is still standing. That you honor the people around you and you inspire the people around you with your grit and your grace, whether they acknowledge it or not.
mhm.
And so I think, I'm amazed at how limitless our ability is to be able to come together, our ability to be able to persevere. And sometimes we don't know until we are tested, that we put pressures on ourselves, internally or from external, the world, in terms of what we could really survive and thrive under. Because, like, again, for those of you struggling listening to this, I know it could be tough, but do you remember that time where you thought you couldn't survive? Well, my response is, you did, if you're listening to this, and you will continue to do that because you are stronger than you think you are. And so my big lesson is that human beings have the incredible capacity to be able to persevere and to move on in spite of adversity. And that's the superhero way, right? The hero's journey. It's you go into this world from the ordinary to a world that's extraordinary, but you have to fight dragons, and you have to level up your skills and your discipline and your self-belief and your faith, in yourself and in others. And that's when you get that prize, right? That elixir, that treasure elixir. And then what do? You use that elixir to be able to go back into that world to help other people realize their potential. Because I think we're all right now on a journey. We're all on this journey right now to realize and reveal our fullest potential. When people hear my title, Limitless, Limitless is not about being perfect. Limitless is about advancing and progressing beyond what you believe is possible. And we could all be more and do more and even have more. It's just sometimes we're not pushed. And so I think resilience, grit, grace, these are words when I'm thinking about 2020, and to take those learnings and that wisdom and that experience and use it to fuel you through, every single day, to have in your life. And so I'm just I'm amazed at how limitless people are. People ask, like, like, in that is that proverb that says, if you want to go faster, go alone, but if you want to go further, go together. Because I get a question all the time saying, how do you become limitless in a limited world? Well, the answer is very simple. The way to become limitless in a limited world is we do it together. We do it through community. There's no limit to our ability to solve these problems. There's no limit to our creativity. There's no limit to human imagination. There's no limit to human determination. There's no limit to our ability to come together, as a community, to be able to elevate ourselves, to be able to not shrink our dreams to meet this current situation. Do not. I think it's a big mistake. I think a lot of people right now are shrinking and,
Mm.
their dreams to meet this current situation. I think what we need to be doing is not shrink our dreams. Don't downgrade your dreams to meet this current situation. Upgrade your faith, upgrade your discipline, upgrade your skill set, upgrade your capabilities to be able to meet your dreams. And so that's what I would say right now. My biggest lesson right now is I'm just inspired by what humans can endure and what they could do for each other and show up for each other. And for me, that's the superhero way. A superhero doesn't just have superpowers. Yes, they discover their superpowers. Yes, they develop their superpowers, but just having superpowers doesn't make you a superhero, right? You have to use that power for purpose.
Yeah.
And so I'm amazed that, people be able to come together, in spite of, and while we are different, remarkably, we are more the same than we are, different, in spite of everything that's going on.
Well, I love that. Such a powerful answer. Um, and I agree. You couldn't have sent a better time to have your book out than now. Like, I think that's literally, like, for so many people. I know people with my network has been almost a mantra and a lifeline for them. That kind of book, exactly, that you put out there, has helped them
Yeah.
get some sort of anchor, some sort of reference point that they could hold on to.
And I appreciate that for you saying that. A lot of people buy multiple copies, one to keep in their, where they work, and one by their bedside. But
Yeah.
even if they're not reading it, yes, it has all the things to help you be more productive, the best brain foods, how to optimize your sleep, how to lead your team and build learning organizations, and speed read and remember names and all these things. It's very tactical, but it's also, you know, the title limit, it shows people what they're capable of. It's a reminder that, we live in the millennium of the mind. Your brain controls everything, yet it doesn't come with an owner's manual. Yet we upgrade our phones and our apps more than we upgrade the most important technology, which is the human mind. And so, I titled it Limitless as a reminder to show people really what they're capable of, because most people shrink what's possible to fit their mind when they should be expanding their mind to fit what's possible.
Yeah,
And so, having that title, even just having it there, it just reminds you of how powerful you really are and how you can use that power for real purpose.
I love that. I love that. I love the fact that you said we shouldn't be trying to fit what we have in here, but expanding this to basically accommodate what's out there. I love
Yeah.
that. Um, so riffing off of that, I'm going to expand that question even further now. From a global perspective, what do you envision or hope that we as a human race, you know, America, China,
Yeah.
Russia, Africa, the whole world, because this is literally a global phenomenon here. What do you hope the whole world can learn from this as a whole going
Yeah.
forward in 2020 as a species?
My answer for that would be, and I'm curious again what everyone else would. Please tag me as you post your answers, or take a screenshot of this conversation and post it and tag us both. And I'd love to know everyone has answered to these so many of these great questions, because these aren't questions I usually you get. And for people who want to learn how to speed read in memory, they could just listen to our podcast, and there's no advertising or sponsors. You could just listen to it to get the tactical stuff. And I love the philosophy, because I think it all begins with philosophy and attitude and mindset before the methods. In terms of what I hope, my hope that we as a global community get out of this is, a little over a year ago, I spoke at the United Nations, and it was the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. It was which happened in July 20th, 1969. And I spoke with all of these astronauts on stage from all over the world. And it was interesting, because I spoke about moonshot thinking and changing your beliefs to think what else is possible, right? To be able to reach these great goals, to be able to solve these challenges that the UN has taken on in the area of water and education and poverty and so on. And it was a wonder. I enjoy that event. My takeaway was would be my answer for this is these individuals, men and women who've been out in space, they described their experience when we were talking backstage and everything, or even on the sense of oneness, that when they left the Earth's atmosphere and looking back at the Earth, there were no borders, there were no boundaries, none of these man-made constraints. And they talked about this emotional, almost spiritual experience that's called the overview effect. The overview effect, that we are really on spaceship Earth together, and we are connected, and we know we're connected because as viruses are contagious and fear is contagious, we are connected. But what else is also contagious? Wisdom, consciousness. Caring and compassion and kindness is also contagious, and it spreads. And so, I would hope that everyone sees from this that we are connected, obviously, that we're all experiencing a similar phenomenon because we are all connected. And that sense of oneness is that, that when we hurt somebody, we're also hurting ourselves. And my hope here is that I really wish people could put on VR or then see something from like the International Space Station, and all leaders could actually experience like what it's like to look and have that same kind of effect looking at our planet, and see like the sense of oneness, that we work together in unity. And use our differences, which are not bad. Use those differences as our superpowers. Like it'd be kind of boring if the Avengers were all just strong like the Hulk,
Yeah.
right? Or all just really smart like Iron Man, right? That we all have a different role to play, but we come together. It's the ultimate team. And it's kind of corny acronym, but team stands for together, everyone achieves more. And I feel like we could work, together is better for sure. And so I would say that sense of oneness, that sense of unity, that overview effect that astronauts have, I would say like this is positive proof that we're all connected, viruses and fear. But also it's just, we could use that and create a butterfly effect. Butterfly's effect is that if a butterfly flaps its wings in San Francisco, it could create a tsunami of change across the globe. And I would say that, what are the little things that we could do that could create that butterfly effect that could affect the cosmos?
I love that. And uh, to uh, to hazard the analogy, what my mind, my geek mind hit was, it took that whole the death of that agent Coulson and the invasion to bring the Avengers together in the movie. So they actually came together from all these different backgrounds, and only then did they act as a team. I'm hoping what you said is true, that this pandemic can help us break those borders, and we come together and become an actual global team, just like you said. I pray that that is how 2021 onward goes. And I love that vision of yours. Fantastic. Um, last couple of questions. I'm again very, very curious. Now you're obviously a mentor, a role model, a leader. Now, but everyone who starts off, who plays that role, also had to start off at some point when they were a student.
Mm-hmm.
What do you look for in your mentors? People who inspire you, your role models.
I
And,
love
right?
it. Great, such a great, thoughtful question. I believe having a mentor is the fastest way to fast track our success and happiness. To have somebody who's done, and kind of walk that path and can share their wisdom and experience. I spent a lot of time even, previous to this, and with seniors in senior centers. And part of it is to help polish off their memories, because that's what I do, but also just to learn through. I think everyone could be our teacher. Everyone can be our teacher, and in my household, we always taught to, revere our elders and have that love, that almost reverence and respect, where we can learn so much.
Mhm.
And so I believe the life we live are the lessons we teach. The life we live are the lessons we teach. And you and I were talking about, near death experiences. And, for me, I had one right before this book, because people say, why did you wait 3 decades, 29 years to write a book after teaching for 29 years and being a mentor to so many people? And I had an accident previous to this, that where I almost died, and it made me think about legacy and what I leave behind. And that's when I signed the book contract the next day, because I've always had that option for a decade. And so my answer for, which is a powerful question for mentor, is I have mentors. I interview most of them on my podcast. So I have a mentor to help me with my mindset, with my movement, like a movement coach, if you will. I have a voice coach, because I think the greatest people out there, they all have a coach. Me, get me a mind coach or a brain coach to some notables. It's I look for the same thing that I would hope they're looking in me. I'm looking for competence.
Mhm.
I'll make them all C's so everyone can remember them easily. Competence, because you want somebody who's a world class and good at what they're doing. They know what they're doing. They've gone down this road. They've learned it through education or experience. The second C I would look for as a mentor is character.
Mm.
Because somebody, they can be competent here, but they don't have a lot of character or integrity. So or somebody could have a lot of character, but they don't have the competence. So
Right.
that wouldn't be a great formula for a mentor. But if somebody has competence here in their mind, they have character, in their heart. And I would always say a couple more is consciousness. For me, this is a third C I recently added, meaning that for me, the vibe that I love being around people who, it's, yes, they're experts here in their mind and they have character, but they also have consciousness, not metaphysical, but more of a, they want to make a difference. They know, they realize it's not just about themselves, that
Mhm.
they could go, and just like everything in nature grows and also gives back, right, and to the ecology and the ecosystem. And I would say that that part of this idea, again, that we're a team and it's about we, not always me. So I look for those kind of characteristics in a mentor: someone who's competent, in that area that I'm seeking to advance in, somebody who has a lot of character and integrity, and then also somebody who's conscious also.
I love that. I'm definitely gonna remember that. So competence, character, and consciousness. I love those three. I when I look for team members and mentors myself, I also have three criterias. I like yours better because it's easier to remember. Mine's very, but they echo yours. One is intelligence, which echoes competence. The other one's integrity, which echoes
Character.
character. And I think the third one could probably echo consciousness. It's maturity. How you deal with essentially everything around you in a mature way.
And I think that that's very conscious, and I think that comes through, experience, a level of maturity, and part of that wisdom that comes out of that is this understanding that it's part of it is just, that we're doing more good than we are, harm, and we could do it more together for sure. I love
Absolutely.
that.
Thank you. I'm definitely incorporating yours as well too. And then my last question for you before we close out is, as we come to the end of this crazy year and start the new year of 2021, what is one challenge you want to give to everyone listening here to give them that call to action of
Yeah,
how they can move forward from this point onward?
yeah. I'll give everyone one, and I encourage everyone to actually, because I love feedback. That's why I'm asking people to post this and tag us both in it, so I can see their answers, because I want to see what people respond with. If it's okay, I'll give two quick ones.
Okay.
I think, I did this Insta story with Will Smith, who was kind enough to give the cover quote for my book, and I asked, what are the two things? What do you do to keep your brain alive, and active, and just how do you just like win? And he's like, Jim, I have to do two things every day: I run and I read. I have to do something physical every day, and I have to do something mental every day. So I would challenge everybody to realize that your brain is like a muscle. It's use it or lose it. I have that on my shirt for those of you who are just
Oh,
looking.
wow. I love it.
Because I feel like we have to be sometimes we get a little lazy physically, and we get lazy mentally. And there's no such thing as a good or bad memory or brain or focus. There's just a trained brain and an untrained brain. And when you're more mentally fit, you will remember the things that you need to do. And then you'll be able to get through your overload and be able to focus when you need to in spite of distractions. And you'll be able to critically think and solve problems and be creative and concentrate. And so that my message to everyone is to challenge them, challenge yourself physically and mentally each day, because your brain is like a muscle. It thrives on novelty and nutrition. And just like your body does, you give it exercise, novelty, and then you feed it good foods. Well, you can do the same thing for your brain. And the second thing I would just add as a secondary challenge is what we talked about today, about gratitude, taking time throughout the day just to appreciate what you already have, because what you appreciate appreciates. And if you're having trouble with that, just here's a thought experiment. What if the only things you had in your life tomorrow were the things you expressed gratitude for today? What if the only things you had in your life tomorrow, the people, the opportunities, your health, everything, were the things that you express gratitude for today? Because I did a Thanksgiving episode on our podcast, how gratitude rewires your brain in 4 ways to get into appreciation, and how it really primes you for prosperity, rewires you for performance, gives you a sense of positivity and peace of mind. I would recommend everyone listen to that. But what I would say is, you don't have to wait for a greater life to be grateful. Be grateful and you'll have a greater life. You
Love
do
it.
not have to wait for a greater life to be grateful. Be grateful and you'll have a greater life. So I would challenge everybody in the upcoming decade, as we're going on this journey through, spaceship Earth around the sun, again, what I would say is to make the most out of this year, come from that place of gratitude, because if you want to feel wealthy, take time to list all the things you have that money can't buy, and then start from there. Gratitude in your heart. Gratitude is your heart's way of remembering things.
I love that. So I'm going to live 2021 onward with that. Physical and mental each and every day. Just remind me and myself of how thankful I am with my brain and my body, and making sure that I am always constantly aware of my attitude of gratitude.
Yeah, I love
Thank you.
that.
We have to finish this up. That's all the time we have. But again, thank you so much, Jim. This has been such an honor and a privilege to be here on Zoom with you. And thank you for all the gifts and your superpowers and the mission and the impact and the example you set for the community. I can't thank you so much, and more than
I
thank you. Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate you, and not only what you do, but the manner you do it. And thank you, everyone who's listening. My biggest challenge for everybody is take one step. Take one step. You don't have to do everything. Just do one new thing. One step in a new direction can completely change your destination, in your life. That again, these difficult times, they could define you, diminish you, or they could develop you. We decide. And so if and I encourage people to follow us on social media at Jim Kwik, and share. I want to see your answers to these great questions about what you look for in a mentor, of what your 2020 is like, what's your big, learning lesson from there. And also, there are all the links for what we talked about. It's in my profile on Facebook and Instagram. We have a free speed reading class there. We have links to our podcast. And so if people want to go on this journey of mental fitness and become a mental superhero, that's the best place, because your life is like an egg, that if an egg is broken by an outside force, life ends. But if an egg is broken by an inside force, life begins.
I love that.
Great things begin on the inside. And everyone, if they're listening to this, they have greatness inside of them. They have genius inside of them. And this new decade, this is the time to let it out. So let's do it
I love
together.
that. Thank you. And we're gonna make sure all those links are down below and in the comment section for everyone to follow up on. And thank you again so much. I can't wait to hopefully be able to engage with you in person someday. But in the meantime, have yourself a wonderful 2021. And I hope to see you in more events. And thank you again for doing all the amazing things you do for us. Thank you so much, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you.